Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to fix Minn Kota 70-pound thrust trolling motor. I had a little bit of a problem with the shear pin shearing off, and when I got around in there and messed around, I ended up trying to drill it out and tap it out, and didn't quite work out the way I wanted to, so I'm going to have to actually replace quite a few parts. So this should be helpful for any of you trying to replace any part on the lower unit of the Minn Kota saltwater riptide series trolling motors. Alright, so what you'll need first, I got myself a half-inch socket, and go ahead and take off the end cap here, and should work out pretty good. So we're going to take this piece off. And if you look inside here, there's actually going to be a washer and a prop, and that's really all that's holding it together, so that should come off. And what you'll have here is, this is the end piece, this is the washer, here's your prop, and we're going to end up replacing all the washer and the end piece there. And so I just wanted to lay them side by side and kind of show you what ended up happening. When I took off this first piece, you can see these two little, looks like exterior pieces that kind of poke out a little bit. This is made out of zinc, so when I actually was trying to take it off, I ended up breaking them, just kind of from the years of corrosion. But as you can see, this is kind of the newer piece. Got it directly from Minn Kota. Get a new washer, and we're going to end up putting those on kind of to seal the deal later on. But for now, I'm just going to show you, take a look inside here. What I ended up doing was I ended up drilling in pretty bad to try to drill the shear pin out, and you can see I really messed up that hole there. So what I ended up doing is reordering the whole lower assembly. It was about 70 bucks through eBay. You can get it through Minn Kota. They were out of stock, so I ended up finding the assembly on eBay. We'll end up showing you how to take off this piece, and we'll get to it. Alright, so what you need for this part, I got myself a 5/16 socket wrench. I'm using a drill. You can use just a deep socket just to get in there. But basically, there's two long pins that go all the way through the assembly here, and I'm just going to take out each one of these units here, and just I'm going to unscrew them, and then Alright, so now both of these are taken out. They're pretty long pieces here, and you'll see it in a second. So as we walk over here, you can see there's a little bit of a rubber washer on there that kind of keeps the water out of there. We're going to go over here and take out this other one. Once you break the tightness there, we can unscrew basically with your fingers. Get a better angle here. And you got both those screws. So both those, I'm going to reuse the screws. I just got new washers, so just make sure all the seals are tight. And then this piece actually comes off. So I'm going to pull this piece off here. Just get a little bit of a tight fit. And it's a little dirty. I'm going to clean that up probably a little bit when I replace it. Back on there later. And as you can see inside here, there's the big main assembly unit is in there. We're actually going to replace this whole piece. So like I was saying, we're going to replace this armature assembly inside here. Got the box for the part right here, just in case you need the part number. It's 92100-119. That's the factory replacement. So it's, again, it's the armature assembly. This is specific to the 70 pound thrust riptide motor that I have. It's a little bit older model. I believe it's a 2006 Minn Kota series. So be sure to look up the parts before you order them, because it is specific to your specific motor. So I got the new parts sitting there, and we're going to get in here. So basically this sits inside this lower end cap. This is a very powerful magnet, and I'll show you what I mean in a little bit, but basically to get this unit out of here, it just basically pulls off. You might have a little bit more trouble than that when you get into it. I've already taken this apart, and when I was originally messing with it, and ended up breaking a few of the parts inside there. So you got these two brushes. These actually are spring loaded, and let me take this back out. But this end piece here sits down behind those brushes, is what they call them. And we're going to end up pushing this back in there later, but when I was taking it apart and messing with it, I ended up breaking those, so I have to order a couple of those parts too. So the purpose of this video again is to show you how to do this, because I couldn't really find a video that really got into the detail here, and that's why I ended up breaking some parts. So hopefully this saves you guys a little time. So next what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this piece out down here. This is basically the last piece. You can see here there's this O-ring seal too. It's kind of dirty and nasty. I mean, I ordered that from Minn Kota too. I'm going to replace that. I mean, while you're going ahead and ordering parts, like these parts are pretty cheap. I mean, the O-rings are a couple cents a piece, so you might as well just go ahead and do everything right. But again, you know, here we'll get after it in just a second. Okay, so what you're going to need here to get these pieces out down here is a T20. They call it a Torx. It's basically a bit. T20 you can get it at your local hardware store. I picked one up from Home Depot the other day, so that'll be helpful getting these two screws out down here, and basically this whole piece is going to come out, and then we can really start working on the pieces that we need to go ahead and replace and get. I actually ordered two brushes. I broke the one, but I'm going to end up replacing both just to show you guys how to do it. Again, you don't necessarily need the drill. Here's the piece. Got that head right there. It's got the star shape to it. Take both those out, and then this assembly. It's going to be attached to your wiring, so just be aware of that. But let me pull it out here. And I want to be careful not to mess it up too bad. You know, I'm not going to mess around down there in the bottom too much. You know, everything's you know, you got your grounds and your wires in there down at the bottom. But ultimately, I just took this out just so you guys could see it a little better. It's got these springs. You can replace these springs. Like I'll show you how they work on this guy. This brush ends up sitting up here in this little compartment, and you can see that spring here. Maybe that's a little better for you. That spring keeps it shut, and both of them end up going around this piece on this. I got the assembly unit here. That assembly unit sits down in there, and those brushes clamp right around the other side of that circular piece. So we're going to go ahead and replace the brushes and get moving. Okay, so I just ended up getting this piece out here. This is part of the brush that just plugs in. If you can get the view here. right here in this little piece, right here, it plugs down in this little hole. Had to use some channel locks to get it out. Ended up doing a little more than I wanted to. What it ends up doing is it plugs into this piece that kind of slides back into this hole right here, and basically it's just connecting through this piece of plastic. So I think this next one, if you can see here, you got your negative charge here. I'm just going to pull this and the brushing, and hopefully it pulls out pretty easy. Alright, so like I was saying, this brushing, I left it in here so you guys could see. It sticks in here and it comes through the back. This is where the negative charge end. So we've got this female end here. We got the male end on this piece. Basically, it plugs in together, and this plastic housing just keeps it contained. So I unplugged the back, and now it should be pretty simple to just pull out this front piece. Let me go over here and get some light. Alright, so I ended up using the channel locks again. I just needed 2 hands to do it, but as you can see, I just basically put the channel locks there on that metal tip and just kind of worked it out. So these are the old brushes. You can see this one was pretty good shape, but I just decided to go ahead and get 2 new ones. So those are the 2 new ones I ordered from Minn Kota, so they should slip right in there. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so if you see here, let me get it in focus, but there's a little tab that kind of sticks out. I don't know if you guys can see that there at the end. That piece, I'm going to go down here, and it's going to slide into this slot right here, and you want that tab, that little tab to face inward, and up here at the top you're going to want it to face inward as well. But what that's going to do is it's going to lock it in place, and then you can just basically plug it into the wiring once we get it back on the motor. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to show you the finished product. Okay, so what I got here for you, I got it done, basically plugged in each end down here, and I'll flip it over so you can kind of see the tabs. It kind of sits in like that on both ends. And sticks through, and that's the male end you're going to plug into both your positive and negative ends. These spring-loaded brushes, so you can see they basically sit right here. And what's going to end up happening is, like I said, that armature assembly is going to end up sitting down in the hole behind these, and then this is going to basically spring-load and capture right behind the new assembly. Okay, so right now I've got the 2 male ends in there like I showed you earlier. Basically it's going to sit back down in there, but I'm going to plug this piece into this red female end, and then the male piece for the top end is going to go into that negative up here at the top. So I got both these plugged in now. You can see it's kind of, I'll turn on this side so you can get a good view as to these 2 pieces that are plugged in there. Basically it's just a standard electrical connection. Got your positive and negative. We got the new springs in, so we're looking good here. These things are nice and ready to go. So I'm gonna end up screwing these back in with the through these 2 holes right here with the T20 bit, and we'll get back to rebuilding. Alright, so I got it down in place, and we're gonna go ahead and use the again this T20 screw, and both these are going to go down here in those holes. Put that there. Go ahead and grab the other screw. Get both of those in place, and then we're just going to go ahead don't want to tighten it too tight. I just went till it took a bite. I might actually have to loosen that. just enough to get this guy lined up, because I don't think this guy is necessarily lined up right. There we go. I think I got them both lined up now. Okay. That one's good. Do this other. Alright. So now that thing's in there pretty good. And we'll get on to the next piece. Which we're gonna end up putting in the new assembly unit here. All right, so this here is our new armature assembly. Here's the bottom here. This piece is basically where the electrical connection comes in, and this is all huge. And look here, we got ourselves a nice shear pin hole. So all that for me drilling in a bad hole and trying to get into the shaft, and cost me a little extra money, but hey, you know, I learned a little bit, so I'm trying to help you guys. So basically, this lower end here is going to sit in that hole. I'm going to have to actually hold these two springs back. I can't do it while I kind of got my hands full with the camera, so I can't quite get it on camera for you guys. But if you can see what I'm saying here, it's basically going to sit down straight behind those two. And then once it sits in there, those two springs are going to end up clasping right here in this slot right here. So they're going to grab around that assembly, and that's where your connection is going to be. Basically, I slipped it in there, and I got that nice, good grip. And it's let me pull this out for you so you can see it. Not quite. So it didn't end up going around in that little hole. It's going to actually connect, and let me pull out the old one for you. So where the brushes are actually going to hit, let me set this down. The brushes are actually going to contact right here, so they're not going to sit in this little groove like I was saying earlier. They're actually going to touch here. So this actually sits down in this. There's a little pocket down here in the bottom, and these are going to, the connection and the brush tips are going to basically, let me get the old one for you so you can see. It's going to connect kind of like that. It's going to touch there. So like I was earlier, you know, I was saying it might be in here. That's not where it's going to connect. It's going to connect right there. And so I got this nice new O-ring here. I'm just going to slide that over, and that basically sat right there on the inside up here on this inner ring right here. So that's placed, and then we'll keep going. So I've got the old armature assembly here. You can see it's kind of dirty. What I'm going to need here are these pieces right here. As you can see here on the new assembly armature, the only piece that's there, let me get in focus, is this piece down here at the bottom, that lock ring. There you go, it's in focus now. You want these pieces. I'm just going to slide it. You can order new ones if you want, but these are in pretty good shape, so I'm just going to slide them off and slip them right over the top here. Here you go. I got you got these two, it's basically 3 pieces. You're going to put it in basically this same order. So you got 2 rubber washers and a metal one. Those are basically going to slide right down and fit nice and snug right down there at the bottom. Alright, so a couple things I want to do before I go ahead and put that the rest of the assembly back together. I got a couple new pieces here. These are just some seals and washers here that I'm just going to replace both these 2 parts. They basically sit right in here. They were pretty cheap, so I just went ahead and bought them. I'm going to pop them out here with a Phillips head screwdriver. And hopefully they pop out like I'm thinking. Okay, so I was able to pry it off. I just needed 2 hands, and you can see that's pretty nasty up inside there. So I'm pretty glad that I got some new parts, and basically all I'm going to be doing is I got this piece You see the back is just nasty, and I'm gonna pry that other piece out too, and try to make sure that we've got a nice good seal in there with some new pieces. I'm gonna probably clean it out there as well. Okay, so just be glad that you guys didn't have to see how long it took me to actually get that out of there, but I was finally able to get these two pieces out of here, and I'll show them to you. So this is the first piece, and that's how grungy that looked. This bottom piece was the one that took the longest. I ended up having to use some pliers and some elbow grease, and ended up finally torquing it out of there with a flathead screwdriver over here, and it finally was able to get out with a little bit of lubricant, and it finally squeaked out of there. But so it was definitely jammed in there tight. I'm gonna go over here, and we got the two new pieces. This is the new one. As you can see, it's super clean. And this is that stubborn piece that took me a while to get out, but ultimately, and I'm actually going to salvage this. This was a little paper washer that was inside the ring, and it's in decent shape, so I'm not going to worry too much about reusing that. But so basically, what I did is I cleaned that up. I'm going to stick this piece back down here in the bottom, and it's going to be a real tight fit. So and honestly, I'm having a hard time right here just trying to get it back in there. So I'm probably going to have to use the flathead again to push it back down in there. This little paper washer right here stuck down in this little hole, and then on top of all that, we basically take this, and it's going to seat right there. We're going to have a nice snug fit. So what I wanted to do here was just make sure that I'm replacing all the gaskets and seals, and so ideally, this is a 2006 motor. It's lasted 10 years, and the only reason I'm having to do all this is because I messed up a shear pin and got a little carried away with trying to fix things. So I'm going to go ahead and push this down, probably use the butt end of the screwdriver. You need a couple hands to do that, and then I'll let you know what the finished product looks like. Okay, so I just got the new piece in there. Tried a bunch of different ways. I'm going to tell you what I did, just in case you end up wanting to try to do this. I use my 1/2-inch deep socket, and what it ends up doing is it fits perfectly into that little hole, or that little groove where that paper washer is going to sit. This is a real tight fit, so I had to put a lot of weight behind that, and I finally got it down in the groove. So now I'm just going to drop this paper washer back down in there, and then I'm going to take my my other little seal here, and then that should fit pretty flush right back on top like that, and we should be good to go. All right, I had to put a little bit more elbow grease behind it, but what you basically want to do is see how flush that is. You don't see any lip over the top right here. That's nice and flush, and get a nice good seal, and got rid of this real crap over here, some nasty junk. But yeah, so we're almost done. One thing I'm going to tell you is too, on the back side of this, I cleaned it up. There is a rubber gasket that I also bought a new O-ring just for that. It basically sits right around the edge here. So that's nice, and I cleaned it up a little bit. So now we've got that nice black O-ring, nice centerpiece there. It's nice and flush, and then we're going to put everything back together. Alright, so now that we got the armature assembly in here, what we're going to do, and you have to be careful here, is this is a really powerful magnet. So you're just going to make sure this is going to slide over the top of this, but you want to make sure your fingers are out of the way. It could be pretty dangerous. So I've got it all slide up here, and you'll watch it. It's going to snap in, and see how it just jerked and grab tight. So that's going to sit in real nice, just in tight fit. And now we got ourselves our assembly, and I'll walk you through the rest of putting it together. So like I was saying, we got that nice tight fit in there. What you want to do is make sure your ends line up, because that's where that deep screw is going to be. See these little holes on the side? You want to make sure that both of those kind of line up to where you can get your long screws in. These are the two long screws again. See these two little rubber washers on it. They're pretty old, so I got two new ones. I'm going to put those on, and then we're going to just basically put this end cap that we just spent a lot of time working on, that I didn't think would take as long. Honestly, this is just going to slide right over the end of this piece here. And remember, you got that nice rubber seal there that we put on there, so that seal should be fitting nice and good. You're going to line up those screws, and we're going to go ahead and take these two long screws. I'm going to put new washers on, and we're going to slide them back down over the assembly. Just going to make sure these line up. Got my new washers. What I'm just feeling for is to make sure that the holes are lining up. There, I got that one started. There we go, we got both of them lined up. I'm going to go ahead and get my drill. Alright, again, we've got our 5/16 hex head here. I'm just making sure that's nice and snug. So both sides are good. Don't want to tighten too much, but alright, both are done. Alright, so now that we got that tightened up, this nice shear pin hole is the whole reason I'm doing this. So I got this new shear pin here. I'm just going to slide it through this hole, and look how nice and smooth that flew. When I did try to get this before, it literally sheared off both ends. It was not sliding freely at all like that, and it was literally melted inside of there. So that's why I tried to drill it out. And ideally, these things, when they break, you should be able to just pop off one end and move it. See, I mean, I can barely keep it in there because it's flowing nice and free. Down here, this groove right here, you can see where it actually broke off in each one of these grooves. But that whole shear pin is going to line up in there, and the purpose of the shear pin is so if you hit something hard, or some rocks, or maybe get caught up in some weeds or something, ideally it chops through the weeds. But if it does break, your shear pin breaks and saves your armature assembly and drive shaft. But so we're going to put this back on, and then last two bits are just to tighten down the new zinc anode and the washer, and we should have ourselves a brand new nice rebuilt motor. Alright, I had to line up the shear pin there and just make sure that it could sit right over it. The last two steps are just to put this little washer right back on top, and then this new zinc anode has a locking washer on it, or a lock nut on there, and what that's going to do is really help keep this prop, because when your prop spins, you got to have that lock nut on there so your prop just doesn't fly off. But I'm going to go ahead and tighten that again with your 1/2" hex deep socket, and we should be done. And we're all tightened up. Down there, the lock nut, as you can see, just a little bit extra sticking over the edge. That nylon wash nut or lock nut in there keeps it nice and snug. We get ourselves the prop turns nice and smooth now with all this, and I'm gonna go ahead and hook it up and make sure it works. I've got the motor set up here. Just trying to get it up in my garage, but I'm gonna give it a shot. And I've already tested it once, but I just want you to see. I mean, that thing is moving way faster than I had it before. I think the shear pin was broken a little bit off before that. Honestly, I'm getting a breeze here in my garage, and I can start turning this on like a fan. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's got a lot of different moving pieces, but hopefully it helps you guys out. I had a lot of trouble the first go around, so if this video can help just one person, I think it did its job. So thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed.